Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, cutting to a mysterious location, we see Morris and Patrick torturing the witch doctor that had cursed Patrick's family. Telling Hazel about how he'll be helping out his special quest involving the Rembrandt Trading Company, Makoto apologizes, realizing that Hazel is afraid he may mess things up and make an enemy of a very influential company. Just then, Patrick and Morris enter, telling the two that all preparations are done. Taken to a lab by Morris, Hazel quickly checks the materials, as he quickly double-checks with Morris, who too knows how to make ambrosia. Apparently special medicinal liquids need to be extracted from the ruby eyes, but apart from that it's a pretty simple process, which Makoto is shocked, expecting it to take several days. Etching a ritual circle into the floor, Hazel begins chanting a spell to enhance his alchemy specialty, but Makoto notes how inefficient this ritual is, as it's taking too long. Using his Kai ability, Makoto secretly speeds up the ritual, allowing them to begin extracting the medicine from the ruby eyes. As they wait, Morris reveals that they would normally extract a similar liquid from the ambrosia flower itself, but it's quite rare, more rarer than ruby eyes, which gives Makoto the idea of hunting these flowers down and selling them for his own trading company. With one dose done, Morris rushes to give it to Patrick, allowing Hazel and Makoto to work on 2 more doses. Seeing Hazel nonchalantly hold the valuable vials, Morris re-enters, scaring Hazel and making him fling the vials. Immediately activating his Kai ability, Makoto saves one, propelling himself to the second one, barely able to save it. Morris apologizes for scaring them, but asks that they come speak with Patrick immediately. Meeting Patrick, they are shocked to see Patrick heavily wounded, revealed to be attacked by his wife when he tried to administer the medicine. Patrick states that this is the first time she's acted like this, which makes Hazel think that the cursed disease must be causing his wife to purposely fight against taking the antidote. Wondering if it's even possible, Hazel states that if it's a level 8 curse and above, it's perfectly reasonable, which only makes Patrick despair further. Patrick reveals his wife has started hating the sun and begun rampaging more often, losing hair, turning frail, and eyes have become red, scaring him as she doesn't even resemble a human. Wanting to help out, Makoto asks to be taken to her, as he will restrain her and administer the medicine. Not wanting Makoto to get hurt, Patrick says that neither Morris nor the guards could restrain her, but Makoto exudes his confident aura, making Patrick, Hazel and Morris believe in him. Entering one of Patrick's rooms, Makoto takes a sample of blood found on the floor, using it to possibly lure out Patrick's wife. Asking everyone to stay back until he's restrained her, Makoto slowly approaches Patrick's wife's room, but is surprised when she smashes through the door, pouncing and swinging at Makoto, only to retreat and stand guard. Reminded of his sisters, Makoto remembers how his sister used to perform judo moves on him, copying such moves, to lock Patrick's wife in an armbar, immobilizing her. Calling for Patrick to administer the medicine, Patrick allows his wife to bite him, giving him the opening to feed her the medicine, instantly restoring his wife, Lisa, back to her human form. Up next, Makoto heads into Patrick's first daughter's room, realizing that it's dark, immediately activating his Kai ability, so as to not underestimate the cursed daughter. Locating her, Patrick is able to heal her daughter, leaving only the second daughter. Finally entering the second daughter's rooms, Makoto is surprised to hear the girl talk, but takes the opportunity to hold her down, officially healing Patrick's entire family. Thanking Hazel for the help, Makoto takes off first, as Hazel stays to continue to produce some spare medicine. Outside, Makoto spots Mio and Tomo, who he knows both just want to re-register at the guild. Before Mio can ask Makoto a question, one of the people that have been following Makoto encases the 3 in fire, but Makoto is able to escape the fire trap. With the 2 stalkers impressed with Makoto's movements, they are shocked to see Mio and Tomo unscathed, as they both wanted to gauge the strength of the fire spell, stating how it's laughable when compared to Makoto's. Out of nowhere, other strangers appear, numbering more than 20. With a smug grin, the leader of the pack offers to pay the girls to join their side, which Mio agrees to, as Makoto had telepathically asked her to sit out, afraid Mio and Tomo will fight over who defeated more, and destroy the town again. Now surrounded, Tomo gets fired up, but is instructed by Makoto to not kill anyone. With the strangers charging them, Tomo and Makoto take it slow, simply dodging and evading their advances, but after a while Tomo goes wild, using the back of her sword, as to not mortally wound anyone. With only the two stalkers left, they realize that they are in trouble, asking Mio for assistance, but Mio glares at them, as she doesn't want to speak to weak people like them. Suddenly one of two begin chanting a teleportation spell, prompting Makoto to rush in, canceling the spell, but also accidentally knocking the person out. With no way out, the final man, Lime Latte, reveals himself as the strongest adventurer in this town, readying his sword, which Tomo notes is a fine sword. With Lime approaching, Tomo easily disarms and destroys Lime's blade, tripping him, only to take her sword out to finish him off. Before she can knock him out, she glances at his memories, seeing children innocently playing in an orphanage, making Tomo stand down for now. Crouching down, Makoto begins asking questions, asking why Lime had placed a killing curse on Patrick's family, but Lime states that he thought the curse was meant to only put them to sleep. Flashing back, Lime reveals that he was talking to a fellow adventurer several months back, learning that the Rembrandt Trading Company has caused many to lose their jobs or take risky ones that may cost them their lives. Mentioning how some adventures from an orphanage Lime is aware of, Lime's friend offers a suggestion, which Lime was unaware of, that led to the witch doctor's curse, but he was led to believe the curse was a sleeping curse. Asking Tomo to check his memories, Makoto confirms he's not lying, letting him go. But first Mio takes all of his gold, as payment for sitting out. Several days later, Lime is seen apologizing to Patrick, who out of respect for Makoto allows Lime to go without a heavy punishment. As a way to atone, Lime states that he'll stop being an adventurer. Later that day, Lime is seen sitting under a tree, greeting Tomo, surprised to hear that Tomo knows all about him. With nothing to hide, Lime reveals how he had always been supported by his orphanage, and as a result when he heard that adventurers from his orphanage were dying, he was mindlessly tricked into doing something horrible. Asking Tomo about Makoto, Tomo states that Makoto is quite mysterious, but changing topics, Tomo offers Lime a position to work for her, and in exchange she will protect the orphanage that he loves most. Knowing Tomo is more than capable, he accepts, prompting Tomo to gift him a new sword, a katana, along with a huge lump of gold coins. Following Patrick and Morris, we see Tomo listen into their conversation, as they discuss how they'll have to intervene if Makoto's trading company ever overtakes theirs, leading Tomo to wonder if Rembrandt's trading company is hiding something. With Makoto and the girls all returning to the demi-plane, they all sit down and enjoy a meal together, but Emma suddenly brings up some bad news. Asking Emma about the issue, our trio learn that the lizardmen and the orcs tasked with protecting the demi-plane have grown depressed, knowing that they'll never be able to defeat their masters. Mio wonders if they should let someone else train them, but Tomo asks Mio to use her head, as the followers may think their master may have abandoned them. Hearing Tomo insult her, Mio suggests she and Tomo exercise a bit, but Makoto orders them to not fight. Wondering how strong these lizardmen are, Makoto asks to visit them himself, asking Tomo to rally them, but she can't be bothered. On top of that, it seems Mio's ALK followers are all individually strong, not experiencing any dissatisfaction, and have even begun producing medicine and experimenting with alchemy. Erecting his Kai ability, Makoto listens to some orcs having lunch, overhearing them talk about how Mio and Tomo are undefeatable, only allowing the strongest to even land hits. But Makoto is worse, as no one can even come close to touching him when he's using his bow, but if you're somehow able to get close, he'll simply create a massive explosion, sending everyone back. As the orcs chat, they wonder if the lizardmen feel the same, as different races never get to see each other train. Feeling bad about going hard on the orcs, Makoto wonders what he should do, but is distracted by Mio, who has taken a liking to tomatoes. Pleased to hear that, Makoto suggested boiling them, or even dehydrating and soaking them in oil. As Tomo meets up with them, she reports that her lizardmen are experiencing similar things, unable to overcome their weakness. Hearing this, Makoto realizes that the orcs and lizardmen are not talking to each other, which Emma states that species keep their tactics confidential. Pondering for a bit, Makoto thinks about what would change if the orcs would use the lizard's fighting style or vice versa. But Emma doesn't understand, prompting Tomo to step in and ask Emma if she thinks that the orcs or lizardmen would grow stronger if they remain how they are. Just then, Tomo gets an idea, which Makoto makes her promise will not cause any casualties. Gathering all the orcs and lizard men, Tomo sets up a duel between the greatest warriors from each species, in a one-on-one duel. Calling out a representative from each side, Tomo's fragment announces Agaras, the representative for the Highland Orcs, and from the Mist Lizards Liddy. With both courageous warriors taking the fight seriously, the duel begins, prompting Liddy to blast Agaras with a wind roar, only to pounce on Agaras. Remaining calm, Agaras conjures a shield, halting Liddy's advances. Now on the offense, Agaras smashes his axe into the ground, blowing Liddy back, but Liddy takes the chance to carve up Agaras with his wind roar, moving in for the finishing blow. But Agaras had wanted this, grabbing a hold of Liddy's tail, only to slam Liddy into the ground, ending the battle in Agaras' favor. Seeing it as now as the perfect opportunity, Tomo states that although both warriors put on a good show, they are completely hopeless when compared to Mio, Tomo or Makoto. Picking the crowd's brain, Tomo states that they may be weak compared to our trio, but this doesn't give them the excuse to continue to stay how they are. Therefore Tomo announces that every 7 days, every orc, lizard, dwarf and alk will be asked to participate in individual matches, with a rank assigned to each person. Hearing this, the crowd fears that they'll be revealing their tactics to other species, but Tomo scolds them, as hiding their secrets are the least of their worries, as by ridding themselves of their ego, and learning from others, is truly the only way to even come close to our trio's knowledge and power. With Makoto chiming in, he too states that growing, learning and competing with each other, will allow them all to become true warriors, naming the system the demi-plane rankings. Returning to town, Tomo and Mio once again compete to see who has the higher level, but unfortunately Mio remains the stronger one, with a level of 1500 and Tomo with a level of 1340. Seeing Makoto with the girls, the receptionist tells Makoto about how Lime, the rank 1 adventurer in town, had retired, and asks Makoto to find a suitable replacement. Thinking for a bit, Makoto says he knows a couple rank 100 adventurers, which Makoto then asks Tomo to train Toa's party, knowing Tomo is more than capable. As Makoto leaves, Tomo thinks about how Makoto's attitude when talking about Toa is serious, therefore Tomo deduces that Toa resembles someone in Makoto's past life. Knowing this, she reasons it would be best for her to train Toa and her party, and make them leave Makoto's life as fast as possible. Immediately brutally training Toa and the others, Tomo puts them through hell, tasking them with fighting huge beast creatures, but immediately Tomo is forced to step in trapping the creatures, as Toa's party are about to lose. Asking them individually, Tomo demands to know why Louisa, the elven archer and Toa the assassin decided to attack head-on, scolding them for being too reckless simply because they're high level. Next, Tomo questions Hazel on not using his earth and water magic, which surprises everyone, as he's only been able to use healing magic. Seeing as there is no other way, Tomo teaches them a strategy, asking Hazel to lay out a trap for the creatures, and Louisa to reposition herself, to shoot from afar. Releasing the trapped creatures, the party are shocked to see some of the creatures stuck, allowing Louisa to easily snipe them. But Tomo asks the party to be on guard, as there are more coming. Tomo instructs Renina the dwarf to tank the incoming swarm, allowing Toa to stealthily sneak in from behind and slay them. With this Tomo states that Hazel only needs to heal when needed, and cast water and earth spells to help with offense. With the party training until sunset, Tomo congratulates everyone, but sets their next goal of conquering a creature's den, filled with 100 of the same creatures they've fought today. Hearing this, the party states that they're still too weak, but Tomo states that she knows they are able to achieve such a feat, ordering them to rest for today, but tomorrow she expects them to report back to her, succeeding in conquering the creature's den. The next day, Tomo waits at the guild for Toa's party, learning that the den she had assigned is actually quite impossible for Toa's party. The location is known as Deathwish Road, as the location is near the Tinnarak Forest, where many adventurers have gone missing. Just then, Toa and her members return, completely beat up and having used up all their resources, but they complete Tomo's quest, making a name for themselves in town. Cutting to Makoto, we see him ask Mio if she could hunt down the ambrosia flowers, asking Mio to search the Tinnarak Forest. Heading to meet with Patrick, Makoto asks if he could borrow some of Patrick's housing space for his own company, which Patrick happily obliges, asking Morris to make space for Makoto. But Patrick fires back a question, having deduced that Makoto is attempting to hide his business from the kingdom. Apparently, Makoto had learned from the receptionist that hiding one's business is quite normal, but it's difficult to get connections. Since Patrick owes him a favor, he knows that Patrick would be more than happy to help out, as Patrick personally knows a location completely outside the reach of the kingdom, asking for some time to arrange such a location. Following Mio, we see her and one of her followers finally reaching the Tinnarak forest, but as we zoom inside of the forest, we see several adventurers, exploring the forest, unknowingly having two mysterious people stalking over them. As we follow Aris, the mysterious girl stalking the adventurers that entered the forest, she begins looking down on the already defeated adventurers, learning that Aqua, the girl with her, had only immobilized them, disgusted that humans would enter their sacred forest. Following Makoto, we see the three girls attempting to help reduce his mana pool, but no spell is capable of reducing it whatsoever. Just then, Tomo's fragment reports that preparations are ready, seeing that the villagers of the demi-plane have set up a party, celebrating the formation of Makoto's new trading company. Giving a speech, Makoto gets shy, but Tomo's fragment brings Makoto a beverage cheering him up. As a thanks, Makoto pats the fragment on the head, but realizes that since she is part of Tomo, both the fragment and Tomo feel Makoto's head pat. Seeing this, Mio gets jealous, offering Makoto some food, realizing that she can take the chance to feed him, but Makoto unknowingly just uses his hands. Seeing herself and Mio hogging all of Makoto's attention, Tomo drags Mio away, leaving Makoto to spend time with the villagers that have gathered here today. Stepping up, Alkina the Alk introduces herself, showing off how she can maintain her human form for long periods of time, impressing Makoto. Since Alkina had accompanied Mio to the Tinnarak forest, Alkina gives Makoto a full report of the different species of flowers and their respective coordinates in the forest, confirming that there are ambrosia flowers in the forest. The only issue is that there seems to be creatures living in the forest, so Mio nor Alkina chose to not take things without permission. Asking if Alkina and her friends are finding the demi-plane fine, Alkina happily states that her friends, Haruna is enjoying training with other warriors, Minato is participating in blacksmithing and alchemy with the dwarves, Hokuto is helping the orcs with construction, and finally Alkina is lucky to follow Mio around all day. Up next, Makoto talks to Liddy, who reports that he's been studying the other species' tactics, leading him to finally beat Agaras, his orc rival. Happy to hear that, Makoto learns Liddy is also training with Tomo, scared that she is monstrous compared to him. Sitting down with Baron, Baron asks about life in town outside of the demi-plane, finding it funny that Mio and Tomo try to fit in, but stand out due to their outrageous power. Wondering if Baron is getting tired of the demi-plane, Baron corrects Makoto, stating that most of the demi-plane has actually not been explored, therefore there is no reason to leave until then, plus he gets to serve Makoto to his full abilities whilst here. But Baron does mention how he is curious what humans would consider valuable equipment, which gets Makoto to suggest that Baron be the one to man the shop he's renting in town, knowing that Baron can speak to other humans, and learn what is popular. With such a valuable opportunity, Baron is happy to accept the offer. Finally, Makoto chats with the orc that he had healed, who was injured from logging. The orc reports that he'll be the guide, allowing adventurers into their illusionary city, which makes Makoto wish him good luck. Cutting to Mio and Tomo, they sit alone, eating on some skewers. Mio is quite sad, as she isn't able to spend more time with Makoto, but Tomo changes the subject, asking for her findings in the Tinnarak forest. Right before Mio reveals her guesses on the people guarding the forest, Tomo cuts her off, asking that she only report facts to Makoto, suddenly realizing that neither of them can feel Makoto's presence. Within a second, his presence comes back, prompting them to rush in his direction. As we cut over to Makoto, we see him simply training with his bow, shocked to see Tomo and Mio watching him from afar. Seeing Mio rush over to hug him, Makoto asks if they are being attacked, but Tomo gets serious, stating that Makoto is using a very dangerous technique when drawing his bow. Asked to explain his thought process, Makoto states that he needs to focus deeply before drawing and firing his bow. Hearing this, Tomo is shocked, as she knows when Makoto focuses, he is intentionally erasing his presence in order to blend in with the background. Next he imagines himself as the target, which isn't normal, as Mio points out the only time someone can remove one's presence is when they die. This means that Makoto is appearing as if he's committing suicide every time he draws his bow, but on top of that, Tomo notes that his mana has increased. Tomo deduces that every time Makoto severs and reconnects his conscience, he is essentially dying and rebirthing himself, essentially doubling his mana every time. This would explain the increasing range of the demi-plane, but this means the goddess of this world will have him exterminated, as he's approaching the level of a god. For now, Makoto will conceal his mana when in the outside world, whilst Tomo has the dwarves work on stronger mana-absorbing gear. As Makoto calms Mio down, Tomo thinks about how interesting it is that her master is on par with a god. The next day, Makoto walks through town, thinking about how he's now unable to shoot a bow normally, without overthinking. As he wanders around at night, a bag suddenly flung in his direction, moving out of its trajectory, only to spot a demi-human, who he notes looks just like him. Out of nowhere, a blonde woman attempts to seduce Makoto, who realizes he's in the red light district, but before anything happens, Mio and Tomo drag him away. Brought back to their room, Tomo and Mio are pissed, with Mio blocking off all of Makoto's escapes. Both girls begin accusing Makoto of preferring prostitutes over them. Hearing Makoto stuttering, they both force themselves onto Makoto, but Makoto conjures a wall of ice between them, suddenly disappearing. As we cut over to Emma, she runs over to a tree, shocked to see Makoto hung upside down, with his clothes torn apart. Deducing that Mio and Tomo may be the cause of this, Emma changes the topic, telling Makoto that Rugi has finished crafting mana-absorbing gear for him. The next day, Rugi shows off his new mana-absorbing coat, linking several rings to it, to greatly increase the gear's durability. Suddenly Mio appears, asking to speak with Makoto, which he shyly accepts. Chatting privately, Mio apologizes for last night, agreeing to never force herself onto Makoto, unless permitted. Changing topics, Makoto announces that he'll be visiting the Tinnarak forest, to negotiate the ambrosia flower for his trading company, but Mio states that it'll be a waste of time, and instead she'll just forcibly take it. But when Makoto offers to have only Mio and him visit the forest, she forgets about terrorizing the forest, as she can be alone with Makoto. Now passing through the forest, Makoto and Mio make their way to the ambrosia flowers, with Mio spotting some adventurers following them, casting her web, so they don't interrupt her date with Makoto. As they approach a large field filled with ambrosia, they reason they should ask for permission before plucking them, holding hands as they make their way through the field. Suddenly Makoto and Mio are stopped by Aqua and Aris, pissing Mio off, as these people are interrupting her special time with Makoto. To make things worse, the three adventurers following Makoto and Mio appear as well, which Makoto recognizes one of the adventurers to be the girl from yesterday. Suddenly, Aris and Aqua accuse Makoto, Mio and the adventurers of stealing their land's goods, prompting Aris to suddenly conjure an ice spell, scaring everyone away. As Makoto runs away, we see the blonde girl from yesterday running alongside him, ordering him to protect them. With Aqua personally firing some flame arrows at them, Makoto is able to sense the attack in time, erecting his Kai barrier, and protecting everyone from further harm. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like and comment.